Good evening. My name is Will Gilhooly, and this last week has delivered no shortage of sporting drama. Tonight, we will be covering the upcoming men's and women's Final Fours, Jaden Ivey's release from the Bulls, and Tiger Woods' arrest. Welcome to the Hall Zone. As March Madness creates April's legacies, the men's and women's Elite Eights proved to have all the drama you would find in a Hollywood spectacle. Starting with the men's side, last Saturday featured two second-half comebacks leading to Illinois and Arizona punching their tickets to Indianapolis. The Illini ended the Iowa Hawkeyes' Cinderella run, winning 71-59 after being down 4 heading into the half. The Hawkeyes went on a 9-0 run to start the game and looked to continue their run into the Final Four before freshman phenom Keaton Wagler took over the game, going on to score 25 points along with Andrej Stojakovic adding in 17 off the bench to complete the comeback. This is the first time the Illini have been to the Final Four since 2005, and they look to be the first Big Ten team to win it all since Michigan State in 2000. The nightcap between the Arizona Wildcats and the Purdue Boilermakers featured a similar storyline, with the Boilermakers going up 7 at the half. However, a 48-point Wildcat splurge in the second half proved too much for Purdue to handle, winning 79-64 and bringing them to their first Final Four since 2001. The Wildcats dominated in the paint the whole night, with freshman big men Koa Pete and Ivan Karchegnov going for 20 points and 7 rebounds and 18 points and 8 rebounds respectively. Sunday started off with the 5th biggest blowout in Elite Eight history, with the Michigan Wolverines defeating the Tennessee Volunteers 95-62. Despite the lopsided score, the Volunteers were actually up midway through the first half before the Wolverines' potent offense took over, going on to lead by 22 at the half. Big Ten Player of the Year Yaxel Lendeborg continued his hot streak, scoring 27 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 blocks. The Big Ten has had a historic tournament so far, with an 18-8 record, and could potentially tie the record for most wins by a single conference in a tournament held by the SEC last year with 21 wins. The nightcap between the Duke Blue Devils and the UConn Huskies looked to be an even bigger blowout than the previous game, with Duke going up 19 points with 3 minutes to go in the first half. The Huskies were slowly climbing back in the game, but were still down 11 with under 8 minutes to play. Then, the Huskies went on an unfathomable 22-10 run to win the game, capped off by a steal at half court by Silas Demery, leading to a 35-foot prayer cashed in by freshman Braylon Mullins with 0.4 seconds left. Mullins spoke about his shot, saying, quote, "Man, I'm just happy that was the one that went down tonight," end quote. The Duke Blue Devils were not able to capitalize in their last possession, completing the second largest Elite Eight comeback ever for the Huskies. On Sunday, the women's Elite Eight started off with another chapter of UConn dominance, defeating the Notre Dame Fighting Irish and earning their 38th win of the year. The Huskies got off to a hot start, holding a 9-point lead after the first quarter and never faltered from there. Forward Sarah Strong led the way with 21 points, 7 rebounds, 5 steals, and 3 blocks. The Huskies have the chance to become the first ever team with 40 wins in a season and are now one step closer to their second consecutive national title. Sunday evening followed a similar storyline with Saturday's men's games, as UCLA came back from down 8 at the half to defeat Duke with a final score of 70-58. The Bruins were down with 5 with 3.5 minutes to go in the third before going on a 15-2 run over the next 4 minutes, setting the tone for the Bruins' second consecutive Final Four trip. Center Lauren Betts had a monster game, leading the way with 23 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 blocks, adding on to her first-team All-American season. Monday started off with the second largest blowout in Elite Eight history, as the Texas Longhorns put a pounding on the Michigan Wolverines, winning 77-41. The Longhorns got off to a blazing start, going on a 20-6 run over the first 7 minutes of the game and never turned the gas off. Forward Madison Booker led the way in scoring with 19, while guard Rory Harmon tied Caitlin Clark's Elite 8 assist record with 13, leading the Longhorns to their second consecutive Final Four appearance. The nightcap featured another large blowout, and while this one took a little more time to develop, it still resulted in a 78-52 win for the South Carolina Gamecocks over the TCU Horned Frogs. The game was skin tight, with the Horned Frogs leading 22-18 4 minutes into the second quarter before the Gamecocks went on a 17-5 run to end the first half, running away with the game from there. Joyce Edwards led the way with a double-double, scoring 24 points and adding in 12 rebounds and 3 blocks. As the Final Four matchups are set, this is the second time ever that the same 4 teams have reached the Final Four in back-to-back years, with the only other time being the 95-96 stretch when UConn, Georgia, Stanford, and Tennessee made it.
Was it rolling?
Oh yeah, that was great.
Recent controversy has broke out in the NBA after the Chicago Bulls waived Jaden Ivey for, quote, conduct detrimental to the team. This came in the wake of Ivey voicing his criticism towards the NBA's support of Pride Month. Ivey took to Instagram Live on Monday morning to voice his opinion on the matter, in which he said, quote, they proclaim Pride Month in the NBA. They show it to the world. They say, come join us for Pride Month to celebrate unrighteousness. They proclaim it on the billboards, they proclaim it in the streets, unrighteousness. So how is it that one can't speak righteousness? How are they to say that this man is crazy? End quote. After being waived, he went back on Instagram Live on Monday evening and claimed that he was strictly waived due to his beliefs. He said that he was being a good teammate and, quote, doing what was required of me in my job. Head coach Billy Donovan spoke to reporters regarding Ivey and said, quote, everybody comes with their own personal experiences, right? But we have to all be professional. There has to be a higher level of respect for one another, and we've got to help each other and be accountable to those standards, end quote. Ivey had been very vocal about his faith during his time with the Pistons, but reportedly ramped up upon his arrival in Chicago, which aggravated some team staff members who described Ivey as, quote, preachy around the locker room. Despite heavy criticism surrounding Ivey's comments, Patriots running back Trevion Henderson came to the defense of Ivey, quote, tweeting a verse from the Gospel of Matthew above a post detailing Ivey's release, stating, quote, blessed are those persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven, end quote. Ivey played 4 games for the Bulls following being traded by the Pistons at the deadline, in which he averaged 9 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists, and 18 minutes per game, before the Bulls shut him down because of a sore left knee. Tiger Woods was arrested Friday on suspicion of a DUI after he was involved in an accident near his home in Jupiter, Florida. Woods was driving at a high speed and attempted to pass a truck hauling a pressure cleaner, which slowed to turn into a driveway. Woods' SUV swerved to avoid the truck, but clipped the back of the trailer, causing Woods' SUV to flip onto its side, leaving Woods and the truck driver both uninjured. Woods was arrested on suspicion of DUI and property damage and refusal to submit to a lawful test. Woods was transported to the Martin County Jail, where he spent 8 hours there before being released on bail. DUI investigators believed at the scene that Woods wasn't impaired by alcohol. Instead, there was suspicion around using medicated drugs. However, there was not evidence of that found in Woods' vehicle. This isn't the first time Woods has been suspected of a DUI. In 2017, he was found asleep at the wheel of a running car with 2 flat tires and damaged the front and rear bumpers. Despite being sidelined with multiple injuries, Woods has remained active as chairman of the PGA Tour's Futures Committee, along with being a player director on the PGA Tour Policy Board. Stick around after this short break, as next we have Anchor Point, the official debate show of the Hall Zone. Welcome to Anchor Point, the official debate segment of Hall Zone. I'm Will Gilhooly, joined alongside Matthew Malchiotti and Tyler Seabreeze. Let's get into our first topic, guys. It was an incredible weekend of college basketball. The Final Four is set in Indianapolis. There are some blowouts. There was some excitement. Braylon Mullins maybe hit one of the best shots of the decade.
Oh, absolutely.
And, I mean, an exciting weekend of college basketball is upon us in Indianapolis. And without further ado, Tyler, the Final Four is upon us. Who do you think is going to take it home in Indianapolis over the next couple weeks?
Well, I'm excited to talk about Michigan once again. Obviously, in prior episode, me and my fellow colleague, Sam Stinson, debated who was going to win the Big Ten, and I have the same winner from the Big Ten to win the national championship, which is the Michigan Wolverines. I think Michigan's going to win. Obviously, they put up almost 90 points per game, which is top 10 in the nation, and then they also have a top 10 defense allowing under 70 points a game, which kind of translates to the fact that they're not one-dimensional. You know, they dominate both sides of the ball, and I think they have one of the best players in the country in Yaxel Lendenberg, who is a phenomenal transfer, and their entire team is transfers. Dusty May is a phenomenal coach and really turned around this Michigan program and using the transfer portal to get other recruits. And then they also have elite guard play. Elliot Cadeau came from the University of North Carolina, was a phenomenal player there, but I think he took his game to the next level. Now he's shooting 40% from three. Their length is going to kind of determine the fact that they're going to beat Arizona in their semifinal game. Mostly due to the fact that they can push the tempo and then they rebound really well. And then their offense is one of the most well-paced offenses, and they're one of the most efficient offenses. So I think that's why they're going to beat Arizona. And then I think the other two teams on the opposite side with UConn and Illinois, I don't think they can match up as well as Arizona can. And I think Michigan can kind of just roll through both of those teams.
Yeah, I can definitely see. I agree with you that they're going to make the final game for the national championship. I do want to give a little bit more of an edge to Illinois. I mainly say that because this is not the same Illinois as we saw like in the regular season.
Yeah.
I mean, this team has one of the best offenses in the entire country. And honestly, as for them going up against UConn, I feel like UConn really only made it to the tournament based off of that 40-foot shot towards the end. I mean, sure, they're a good team, but they do have weaknesses compared to like their previous like 2024 and 2023 teams.
Yeah.
And what was I going to say? As for like Michigan, I mean, Michigan, they're a good team. They're very good offensive and defensive. They're good on both sides. But I mean, I feel like if they were to play against Illinois, it would just – it's happened like before, like, you know, 1 seeds have dropped to 16 seeds before. Yeah. We've seen that happen as well. Almost saw it happen this year with Siena beating Duke. But, well, they didn't beat Duke. But I feel like this team shows that they can make the adjustments after a loss. I mean, we saw that when they lost to like Nebraska and Wisconsin this year. They made the right changes that they needed to make, and they're number 3 in the tournament for a reason.
Yeah. I just think Illinois has too many holes, especially like defensively. Like Illinois, they're the tallest team in the country, but they don't play like it. They don't play physical enough compared to how you like. I think UConn and Taurus Reed is really going to be able to bully them down low.
Yeah.
And I think Solo Ball can really like drive to the basket against that team. And then obviously Braden Mullins, he hit that 40-foot shot, and you know he didn't shoot well that game, but obviously you're going to have an off game, and I think he's going to bounce back really well. And then I think the UConn team is probably the best coach team in the country. I think
Fair.
Michigan is the best coach team in the country, and then I think Danny Hurley and UConn is the second best team, like coaching wise in the country. And I think that's why they're left in the tournament. That's why I think they're going to play in the national championship. I think the size from Illinois could like cause slight problems to UConn, but obviously we've seen in the past it didn't really affect Michigan. I think Michigan blew them out by double digits in the regular, and obviously it's just the regular season.
Yeah.
But I think the way that Illinois' defense is set up, there's a lot of holes. I think that's why Wisconsin was able to manipulate that in the Big Ten tournament, and I think that's why Michigan ultimately would beat Illinois if they faced off in the national championship.
Yeah, I mean, like, what you mean about their defense, I mean, I could definitely see where you're coming from. There definitely are holes, but whatever their holes are, like they make up for it with their offense. Like I said before, this team is really good offensively, and let's see. I mean, UConn, like their opponent, like I said before, is also going to be much weaker. They lost by 20 points against St. John's in the Big East tournament, and they only won by 4 points in the Sweet 16 against Michigan State as well. Another notable win to mention. Like, UConn doesn't have the same momentum as they did before, and I feel like, what else? I feel like they just don't have the steam that they used to, and up against Illinois, they are not gonna, do that well. And as for Michigan, I feel like Illinois will come by with their offense, like, or at least improve of Michigan's offense as well. And like you said before, there are some holes and such, but their offense does make up for the holes that they do lose.
Yeah, I feel like you guys have done a great job. I mean, these are two very polar opposite teams. Michigan led by a bunch of experience. No freshmen in their starting lineup. They've spent a ton on NIL to revamp this roster, whereas Illinois is led by a freshman and arguably a storyline similar to Darius Acuff of Arkansas, where he was projected like, hey, if this guy could play well during the tournament, could he get in top 3 pick conversation? But instead, now I feel like that narrative shift over to Keaton Wagler of Illinois, where he could potentially play himself into that. But with that said, there are more teams in the women's side of the tournament that have much to prove, mainly because it's the same exact Final Four as last year. I mean, these teams, they've all been there before. They've got the same thing to prove as last year.
All 1 seeds.
Exactly.
Yeah, all 1 seeds this year. It's going to be very interesting. I feel like, for me especially, I feel like UCLA is going to be the better team in this tournament. They've done well in tournaments previously. And the Gamecocks and like other teams like Texas as well and UConn, they're going to be a bit of a challenge for like whoever UCLA plays against. But I mean, I ultimately do see UCLA taking like the national championship for the women's team.
Yeah, I mean, Lauren Betts has been outstanding for UCLA.
Exactly.
But I just can't see UConn losing. Obviously, Coach Gino Auriemma is phenomenal. You know, he's led this UConn program for decades. And this arguably is one of the best teams that they've had. And I mean, undefeated once again, which is exactly what he does year in and year out. And I think as Ozzie Fudd is just one of the best players in this women's tournament. And I think the way that UConn operates offensively, you know, they can space you out really well, and they can also just beat you up down low. But their tempo and their defensive pressure, I think, kind of just forces the edge against all the rest of the teams in this women's tournament. And then I just don't know. I mean, I'm completely out on Texas. I'm completely out on South Carolina. So I do agree that it comes down to UCLA and UConn, but I think UConn is just going to find a way to get it done once again.
I mean, well, since we're both in agreement that these two are consensus top teams, Matthew, with this matchup, it's going to be very interesting, as Tyler pointed out, that Lauren Betts is going to be a huge part of UCLA's game. How do you think she's going to fare with UConn that is largely built around their forwards play?
That's a great question. I feel like they're going to build around it, especially like offensively, and I feel like they're definitely going to build around her mainly. And I feel like as long as they can like work together as well, I feel like they're going to do well. They've done well before in arguably a much more difficult conference than the Big East. I mean, the Big Ten is one of the hardest like conferences to play in, if you ask me, especially since they're absolutely like they just expanded to 18 teams a couple like years ago in 2024. So I definitely feel like if UCLA can beat all of these teams in an 18-team conference, they deserve to be in this tournament. They know what they're doing, and they can easily take down UConn. Yeah,
my thing, like the Big Ten, obviously, like you said, much more competitive, and honestly, they're a much more physical conference compared to the Big East.
Yeah.
But the way that UConn, like their style of play, they can be physical, they can be scrappy, and I think the way that they can dominate, like I think they can send doubles to Lauren Betts and then chase the UCLA shooters off the perimeter. Like UCLA doesn't shoot as well as they would like to, especially when you have the way that UConn can play defense against Lauren Betts. I think they're going to be able to send doubles. I think they're going to put constant pressure on there. And I think that's going to lead to a lot of transition offense, which is also what UConn wants to play, because UCLA's offense is very good in the half court, but once UConn starts to speed them up, I don't think that UCLA is going to be able to stay in this game.
Very true. I mean, I feel like, once again, the Big Ten, I mean, is a much bigger conference. And mind you, UConn is the only public school in a conference that is mainly filled with private Catholic schools as well. So that's one thing to keep in mind. They're going to have more access to players.
Yeah.
They're obviously going to do well against like these much like smaller schools, if we will. So I definitely feel like UConn takes advantage of that very well. But when it comes to like other conference plays, they don't do as well as they should, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, you guys placed it perfectly. I mean, this Final Four is going to be incredible for women's basketball. I mean, we've seen 4 1 seeds for the second consecutive year. I know a lot of people don't really like chalk. I always think it's exciting. You have the best possible teams in it. You have a team that is chasing history, 40 wins, and an All-American center who is arguably having one of the best centers a player has ever had in basketball in Lauren Betts. But with that, April also brings around the start of the baseball season. While it's a lot of talk goes around about March Madness, the baseball season has officially started this year, and we've got a couple teams that have made some very interesting offseason moves, starting off with the Baltimore Orioles. They've added guys like Shane Baz, Chris Bassett, Pete Alonso, Taylor Ward, and Blaze Alexander. There's been a lot of buzz around this team that largely underperformed last year. Tyler, where do you see this team going in 2026 with this revamped roster?
Well, I think the Orioles are in the hardest division in baseball by far. You have 4 teams who honestly could compete for a World Series this year. Boston is very good. The Yankees are obviously, they ran it back, which I didn't really like. I don't think it made sense for them to return 24 out of the 26 on that ALDS roster, but they're still a very good team. And then Toronto, an out away from the World Series.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think the Orioles kind of fall right there between the 3 and 4 line. I don't know how well they're going to be able to perform. Obviously, they have great bats. They have one of the best lineups in baseball, but their pitching is just, I don't like the starting rotation. The bullpen is really iffy. They have a lot of young arms who are inexperienced, and they have a lot of guys with, like, you could say inflated ERAs due to, being on worser teams in the past, but a lot of their guys have ERAs around the 4, 5, and I don't think that's going to be fit enough for them to really compete and be labeled as a good team. And then they also rely on a lot of young talent. Like, obviously, Sammy Basayo, I think he's going to be a great player, but, he's still young. And when you have young hitters, like, they're going to be very streaky. They're going to start off hot, have a high on-base percentage, but they also have a high strikeout rate. And they tend to chase a lot, so I think they could struggle there. The lineup is good, but I don't really like the pitching that they have over there in Baltimore.
I mean, that's the thing about their pitching is that, like, at the end of the day, yes, it's very important to have good pitching. Runs are what win baseball games. As long as the Orioles can bring in these runs, and, like, they obviously are getting guys that can bring in runs, like Pete Alonso, Adley Rutschman, Gunnar Harrison. These guys can bring in the runs that they need to win the games. And not to mention, they've been rebuilding like their team since 2019. They've done a tremendous job of doing so, if you ask me. I mean, they've won their division for the first time in since 2014, I believe. So with a 101 win record, that's not an easy task to do. And 2025 was a bit of an off year, I will admit, but I mean, it was mainly plagued with injuries as well. So it was definitely not their best season, but they have proved before that they can win baseball games and win their division even. So, and like you said, they do play in the hardest division in all of baseball, if you ask me. Like, the AL East is no joke. You got the Red Sox, the Yankees, the Blue Jays, some years the Rays. Like, all of these teams can compete for a World Series very, very easily. So
that's what I think. I think that's what's going to catch up to them.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to be very interesting to see. I mean, you have a lineup with Adley Rutschman, Tyler O'Neill, Coulton Cowser, Jordan Westbrook that largely struggled throughout the year, and also some exciting pitching. Trevor Rogers had an incredible year. It's going to be very interesting to see how that team fares out. But there's another team in the National League that a lot of people have been talking about. They skated into the playoffs last year, struggled a bit. They've got some depth. The San Diego Padres have drawn a lot of eyeballs. They almost caught the Los Angeles Dodgers last year in the division. Matthew, where do you think that the Padres are going to fare out this year?
I mean, honestly, if you ask me, the Padres are one of, if not the most fraudulent teams in all of baseball. And I have good reason for this. I mean, you can't tell me that a team that has only made the World Series twice since their expansion year in 1969 is a good team. These, yes, this is historically speaking, and not to mention, they are doing very well as of right now. Like the best season they've had was in 2022, where they went to the NLCS and they lost to the Phillies, who later went on to like lose the World Series. But still, I mean, Fernando just is not the same, honestly, if you ask me. Like, he just isn't the same, so as well as Manny Machado. I mean, Manny Machado, honestly, was better when he was on the Baltimore Orioles, which we just talked about. So I feel like, especially with all the controversy around Fernando Tatis and his use of PEDs back when that story came out, I feel like that definitely tainted the image of the San Diego Padres. Like they need like steroids to win games and such. You know where I'm coming from?
Yeah, I think that might have like tainted their image, but I think that kind of helped them fly under the radar. And I think that's kind of what they needed. And your point about Tatis, I completely disagree. I think Tatis' best year is gonna end up this year. I think the Padres are hungry. You know, they've been so close to catching up with the Dodgers in the postseason. They've been right there so many times.
Yeah.
And I think Manny Machado, yes, he might have been better as an Oriole, but he's still an elite defender. You know, he hits between 250 to 280 year in and year out. He's a 25-plus home run guy, and he's also playoff tested. And I think that's the thing about the Padres. They keep getting here over and over and over. They have a lot of experience. You know, Xander Bogaerts. Like, this team is filled with talent throughout the lineup. You know, Jackson Merrill, he's young, but he's a superstar. And then their pitching, their starting rotation, it took a hit. Yu Darvish, you know, being out for this entire season with surgery, and then Dylan Cease leaving. Kind of unfortunate, although I don't really trust Dylan Cease in the playoffs. But Michael King, he's been fantastic. And then that bullpen is just – the depth in that bullpen is elite, and Mason Miller is one of the best closers, if not the best closer in baseball.
Yeah, you guys had some very interesting points. However, I like what you said about the bullpen. Padres, filthy bullpen.
Yeah.
Mason Miller, it's incredible what they have. And while I slightly disagree with what you guys said about Manny Machado, that is going to wrap it up for our segment tonight. Don't go anywhere, because we've got a special Final Four edition of Deckside Chats.
For all, forever. A promise that began 170 years ago and still guides us today. A legacy of knowledge, faith, and transformation. Born of vision, built on community. We are one university with one mission: to create an immensity of future good. As Mother Seton once hoped, to prepare minds, to open doors, to lead with compassion. This is Seton Hall. Driven by purpose, united by faith, reason, and possibility. And now, a campaign to elevate every Setonian, for all, forever. A historic goal to touch every corner of our university and every member of our community. We prepare leaders through scholarship. We enrich education through immersive experience and global reach. We strengthen our cornerstones with academic excellence, research, and faith. Because every gift touches every student, today and for generations to come. For opportunity, for discovery, for community. Join us in shaping the next 170 years. For all, forever. A campaign for a greater Seton Hall.
Good evening, and welcome to a special Final Four panel. My name is Sam Stinson with Asher Ruyu and CJ Weeps alongside me, and we will be discussing the last 4 teams left in the March Madness bracket. Those teams are Illinois, UConn, Arizona, and Michigan. Let's get started. So guys, how are you guys doing today?
Doing great, Sam. Thanks for having us on. Ready to talk some ball. This is going to be an interesting Final Four, I think.
Absolutely.
Very interesting Final Four. Yeah, I mean, we're going to get into it. It's going to be very,
Oh yeah, this has definitely been a very memorable March, in my opinion, specifically for March Madness. So let's just jump right into it. You know, this Illinois team, famously nicknamed the Balkan Block, which is one of my personal favorite team nicknames, to go over their tournament run: first round against UPenn, second round VCU, Sweet 16 against a very good Houston team by 10, and the Elite 8 against Iowa. I would say this is generally an easy path to the Final Four, in my opinion. I think the Houston game really stands out for me. They held Houston to a 22-64 shooting from the field and 9 for 32 from 3, which is unheard of for a Houston team with this many with so many good players. Houston only shot 2 free throws that entire game, which is ridiculous in my opinion, especially in a March Madness game where emotions are high for these players. They can make mistakes on fouls. They only had 2 free throws. I think this team is one of the best offensive teams in the country. I've talked about them before in a previous Hall Zone, so I'm curious to see what you guys think about them.
Yeah, I think, best offensive team in the country, and that's backed up by the numbers. They're number 1 in KenPom in adjusted offensive efficiency. So this is a team that loves to get out and run. They love to score, and they can do it from however they so choose. Keaton Wagler, obviously the number 1 guy for Brad Underwood and company. But, I mean, again, in the game against Iowa to get them to the Final Four, it was really their bigs that did a lot of the work, especially towards the end of the game to put it out of reach for the Hawkeyes. But again, you also mentioned how Houston only shot 2 free throws in that game. This is an Illinois squad that doesn't foul often, and that's one of their big strengths because they're so tall, the tallest in the country actually. They're able to stay vertical, and they're not forced to make stupid plays and make sure that they can stay vertical and they can play great defense without having to foul. And that's one of the things that makes them such a dangerous squad. Their rebounding, their ability to defend without fouling, and obviously the offense.
Absolutely.
No, I think, Sam, you made a great point about that Houston game because I'll be the first to say I love Houston. I love the teams they put out there. Kelvin Sampson, I think he's a fantastic coach. For Illinois to go in there and beat them, it was pretty incredible to me. I had Houston going pretty far, but I think to your point about Illinois being the tallest team in the nation, talking about versatility, they're a very versatile team, the ways they can score. And, I mean, listen, that game against Iowa, they were down, they came up. That's facing adversity to me right there. So
Absolutely.
I think they really are a great team. And it shows with where they are right now.
Yeah, absolutely. They didn't shoot well against Houston, but I think it was just an off shooting night. As you said, they were one of the best 3-point teams in the country. But let's move on. You were talking about adversity. I mean, no bigger adversity than the UConn Huskies just faced in that matchup against Duke. Recap their tournament run. First round against the number 15 seed Furman. Second round against UCLA. Sweet 16 against a very good Michigan State team. And this Elite 8 game against number 1 Duke, man. I have 2 words on all caps in my notes right here. It says utter pandemonium. And I think that's the only way to describe this matchup. Like, they were easily in one of the toughest regions in the bracket with Duke, Michigan State, St. John's, Kansas, UCLA, all in the same region with elite coaching and elite teams. The fact that they made it out could be seen as a miracle in some cases, in my opinion. But especially in this last game, Braylon Mullins, man. The stones on this kid to put up that shot from shooting 0-4 from 3, and they give him the ball. They trust it. Well, they didn't really set up a play or anything in that inbound, but it just doesn't make sense to me how he would put up that shot. Down 15 at half and 19 at one point. I thought they were completely out of this game. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, and you talk about that last play. If you listen to what he said after the game, he was like, I was just giving it to Alex because he just hit one. You trust your shooting or leadership. Absolutely. But then Caravan gave it right back to the kid. Yeah. So when you talk about, trusting your teammates and being able to go to any single person on that roster and, make sure that you have the confidence in them to make a shot when it counts the most. Like, that's what this UConn Huskies team has. Even if you're not shooting well, obviously Mullins, that was his first 3 of the game. Caravan made his first 3 of the game just about 30 seconds before then. So, this team has gone through so much, especially in Big East Conference play, even in the non-conference when they lost to Arizona without Terrace Reed, and they thought that they could be contending for a national title. This is exactly where Coach Hurley thought that they would be in the month of March moving into April. But,
absolutely.
I mean, this team, the numbers, again, back them up. 9th in the country in defensive efficiency. They're 9th in the nation in opponent effective field goal percentage, so you're not getting any easy shots against them, which is to be expected from a Dan Hurley-led team. But one of the things that we're going to have to take a look at for this UConn squad, besides their inconsistency shooting the ball, it's going to be those fouls.
Absolutely.
So you bring up those fouls, and I think one of the things with UConn and Dan Hurley and the way they play, it's the tenacity. That's why they were able to win against Duke. They would never even think for a second about getting anywhere close to giving up, especially on the stage they were on. And when you're a team who plays like that fierce competitiveness, those fouls are going to come. I think, for me, just coming off the adrenaline that they have after beating Duke, that's going to play a huge factor. That's just going to play a huge factor in me. I don't want to harp on the Furman game, because it's a Furman game. No disrespect to Furman. Terrace Reed, 27 rebounds. That still blows my mind. My jaw is on the floor.
Yeah, I was just about to get into him. Terrace Reed Jr., in my opinion, has been the best player in this tournament.
Yeah.
You could argue Axel Lendenberg. We'll get into him later. But he's been an absolute monster this tournament, man. I mean, averaging 22 points and 13 rebounds per game in the first 4 games of the tournament is insane. He's 6'11", 265, had 4 blocks against Duke, which just highlights his defensive ability. He's just an absolute monster on the court.
Yeah, and just under 22 points a game, 8.5 boards for the tournament.
Yeah.
Shooting just under 60%. So he's been someone that UConn has had to rely on a lot more in this postseason. They really have had to rely on throughout the regular season. So it's really impressive to see him step up. And again, you look back at that the repeat champions when UConn went back-to-back. Great bigs. Adama Sanogo, Donovan Clingan, Samson Johnson. Like, those guys were great. Terrace Reed is another one of those in the lineage of UConn bigs in the tournament.
Absolutely. So before we move on, what are you guys' predictions for this matchup, Illinois versus UConn?
I am going to take UConn here. And a lot of that, for me, is based on what I brought up, just coming off that game against Duke. I mean, how do you go in and lose, to me? Because it's a very, I mean, it's the Final Four. Of course, it's going to be a very kind of even matchup. You could take either team, and it's not a bad take. But for me, that's what it's going to come down to. They're going to go out there. I don't see a way that they go out there and lose. Like you did say, fouls, they could be an issue. But I think they should have enough as to where, even if they're trailing at some point, they're going to snap right back into it, and Dan Hurley's got that experience, and so does a guy like Alex Caravan. So they have that championship timber.
Absolutely.
I'm going to be pretty quick. I'm also the Huskies as well, but it's because of the experience. They're 18th in the country in minutes continuity from last year. So a lot of experience on that team. Hurley, Reed, Caravan have all been there for the championships, and I think they're going to do it again. But also, this Illinois team, especially in ball screen coverage, they like to drop because they're so big. They're not as mobile on the perimeter. So if you get a guy like Braylon Mullins or Solo Ball, if he gets hot, they could really cause some damage. I don't think they're going to go 1 from 18 from 3 in the first half against the Illini.
We're going to have a Big East sweep on this panel because I also have UConn. I think Big East play, they just play it differently in that league. You've seen it in the Michigan State game. They struggled with UConn. So I'm going to have the Huskies in this one. Let's move to the other side of the bracket. We got a absolutely insane matchup. We're first going to talk about the Arizona Wildcats. 36-2 has been one of the top teams in the country. Their tournament run, first round against LIU, second round against Utah State, Sweet 16 against a really, really good Arkansas team, and then their Elite 8 win against Purdue. This team is super efficient throughout their whole entire roster. On their whole entire season, they're shooting 50% from the field, and that efficiency has just gotten them to this point in the tournament. This Arkansas game, I was so high on this Arkansas team. I think Darius Acuff is. We were talking about this before. I think he's 101 in the NBA. I really think he should be drafted that high. They went 64% from the field and 63% from the field, scoring 109 points against this Arkansas team. That is insane. They score so efficiently. It's absolutely insane. The triple threat offensive play of Braden Burries, Koa Pete, and Jaden Bradley is absolutely elite. So what do you guys think?
Yeah, and you take a look at that Arkansas game. And again, I was also very high on Arkansas. I thought their offense might have been the best in the entire tournament coming into the NCAA tournament. But it just goes to show that this Arizona team can play any style of basketball. I mentioned their game against UConn earlier in the season where they were able to win. You see that Arkansas game. You see going all throughout Big 12 play, which is an absolute gauntlet. Their only two losses were to Kansas and Texas Tech with JT Toppin before he got hurt. So, this Arizona team has been able to play every single style of basketball and play it well and just be who they are. Any Tommy Lloyd team, it has such a distinct identity from the rest of the country, and that's why he's had so much success in Tucson. But I mean, the numbers on this team are just incredible. Fourth in offensive efficiency, second in defensive efficiency in the country. They're second in the nation in rebounding, so they're physical. They can get those boards. And opponents are only shooting 26% field goals from 3. That's third lowest in the nation. So this is a team that can really get it done on the defensive end as well, on top of all of their offensive capabilities.
Absolutely.
It's something that I brought up earlier with Illinois, versatility. And I think at the end of the day, Arizona has that. That's the reason they've only lost 2 games. Whatever you need them to go out there and do to win, they can do it, and they can do it to near perfection.
Absolutely. This Big 12 conference has been one of the best conferences, if not the best, in the country for the regular season, and Arizona gets them out of it. So let's move to their opponent. The Michigan Wolverines, another team that was highly ranked throughout the whole entire season. Round 1 against Howard, Second round against a St. Louis team that has been really good. Sweet 16 against Alabama. Elite 8 against Tennessee. Another easy run to the Final Four, but I think that's because of the Alabama little scandal. We're not going to get into that. By far the most dominant team in this year's bracket. They won by 13-plus points in each of the games, or they won by 20 in each game, but the Alabama game they won by 13. The four-headed monster, I like to call it, of Yaxel Lendenberg, New Jersey native, Morris Johnson Jr., Ade Mara, and L.A. Cadell, another New Jersey native. They all play very differently, but I think they all mold very well and make a one complete and skillful team, and that's from Dusty May's absolutely exceptional coaching. He's done a fantastic job recognizing the skill sets of these players and shaping a complete team.
Yeah, I don't know where Dusty May just gets these massive 7-footers that are just so talented and can move so well, but Mara has just fit the mold so well.
Yeah.
Last year it was Vlad Golden, this year it's Mara. He's got his explosive wing with Lendeborg, and then he's got his sharpshooters with Trey McKinney and Elliot Cadeau, the floor general. I mean, this is a team that is built to win.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you think of a roster that is constructed to win basketball games, you think of all the different archetypes. This is exactly what you're thinking from the Wolverines. First in KenPom this year, second in offensive efficiency, first in defensive efficiency, and they're also first in opponent effective field goal percentage. So you're not getting any easy shots against this Wolverines defense. But man, this team, there's not enough good words in the English language to use to describe this Michigan Wolverines team.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a coach who can recognize what everyone does the best and make them even better at that, that's how you get to the Final Four.
Absolutely.
For me, that Tennessee game, I mean, I know I feel like they blew out everyone, but that Tennessee game was just like, that was it for me where I said, this team is special.
Absolutely. This is going to be a hot take. I think this is the best Michigan team of all time if they win the national championship. I know that's crazy to say, but I believe so. So this matchup, going to be probably the best game in this college basketball season. I mean, these are the two best teams in the country by far, in my opinion. Who do you guys have?
I'm going quick. I've been a Wildcats, supporter since the start of the tournament. I thought they were going to win the Natty as soon as they came in. After these last couple of games, I still believe it. This game is going to be fought in the trenches. Mara and Lendeborg versus Karchenkov, Mo Krivas, and Tobe Awaka. It's going to be absolute cinema in Indianapolis. Give me the Wildcats.
Absolutely.
Give me Arizona. They're the best team. They've been the best team all season. It's like, I could really, if you asked me 5 minutes ago, maybe I'll say Michigan. But right now, give me the Wildcats.
All right. I am not going to make this panel have a sweep for both of these matchups. I am taking Michigan. One stat that I want to quickly point out, Arizona has attempted 555 three-pointers this whole season. Michigan has exactly 300 more in 855. That just shows this Michigan team is just so dominant, in my opinion. They have so many skillful players. They shoot well. I'm taking this Michigan team, man. I think they're just complete dominant. Like you just said it. They're just complete dominance. So let's pick our national champions. I have Michigan, UConn. You two have Arizona, UConn. Who do you guys have as your national champion?
I don't think UConn has the defensive capabilities to keep up with the amount of offensive weapons that Arizona has. And I think Dan Hurley gets to another natty, but I think this is the first one that he drops. Give me Tommy Lloyd and the Wildcats to win it all.
All right.
I agree. Give me the Wildcats. They were my pick before the tournament, and it's going to remain that way because, listen, UConn's fantastic. Arizona, Michigan, to me, is like whoever wins that is most likely going to be the national champion.
Yep, I agree with you. I'm going to take Michigan. I'm not afraid to say it. I think Dan Hurley is one of, if not the best college basketball coaches right now. I think it's without a doubt.
Yeah.
If he makes 3 national championship games in 4 years, wins 2 of them, he's without a doubt the best coach in college basketball. I think this Michigan team is just so dominant. Yaxel Lendenberg, the Alabama game, he had 23 points, 12 rebounds, 7 assists. That is just absolutely dominant. So that's going to do it here. Do you guys have any final points you'd like to share?
No, I think this tournament's been great. For everyone who says that the Cinderella is dead, I beg you to look at mid-major basketball. This year was incredible. It's going to be even better in the years to come.
Absolutely agree with you. I second that.
Yeah, there's a part of me that wants to say Dan Hurley's going to win it all. The guy's not invincible. If you go against Arizona or Michigan, I don't know if he can win it. But my popcorn is already heating up for this Michigan-Arizona game.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait. These are going to be 2 insane teams. 2 insane games. So that will do it for us. Thank you for sticking with us, and we hope you enjoyed this discussion. Once again, I'm Sam Stinson alongside Asher Ruyu and CJ Weeps, and this has been Hall Zone. Have a good night, everyone.